What if I told you that among all interview questions, the one that yields the most search results is how would you explain something technical to someone who isn't technical? That's pretty surprising, right? It really surprised me too. So today we're going to zero in on the group that most frequently gets confronted with this type of challenge, software engineers. But here's the kicker. This isn't just for engineers. Anyone in a technical field can benefit from the analogy we're about to explore in our sample question and answer. So, without further ado, let's dive in. And as always, we'll engage with our fake interviewer, Sue, who asks us the following question: Jeff, how would you explain something technical to someone that is not technical? Okay, Sue, I have a few clarifying questions. I want to understand, is the technical topic software related or hardware related? Also, I'd be curious, is the person I'm explaining this to a complete beginner or do they have some basic understanding of the technology? I want to understand the setup. Will I be explaining this in person or is this more of like a remote interaction? Is the explanation required for decision making on something specific or just simply for an understanding or knowledge? And then is the time frame immediate? Do I have to do it right now or do I have a little bit of prep time? Okay, Sue, a few concepts we should focus in on to help us solve this question are: I definitely want to focus in on the overall goals. I want to be thinking about the data we have. I want to think about the communication strategy, be thinking about a strong analogy, bringing in some context, and then thinking about success measurements. And why don't we start by making a few assumptions? As a software engineer, I'm going to assume that the technical topic is software related, focusing in specifically on the architecture of a cloud based system. The person I'm explaining to is a marketing manager, let's say, and they have a limited technical understanding. Let's do it remote via Zoom. And let's say that the marketing manager needs to make decisions about an ad campaign launch. And I have a little bit of time to prep so I can create some visual aids or slides or diagrams. I think we should start by focusing in on our communication strategy and specifically focusing in on analogy. Is that a good place for us to start? Okay, let's dive into that Zoom meeting. Starting off in that Zoom meeting, I would definitely utilize a detailed slideshow that's going to give a vivid depiction of a busy and well organized airport. The first slide would outline the entire airport layout, basically making the storage area as the luggage claim, computing as air traffic control, data analytics as our customs and integration, and then the network as our runways and taxiways. And so in the storage section, that would be represented by the luggage claim. This is where all the data is securely stored. Just as luggage is tagged and routed to the correct flights, stored data is indexed and made easily retrievable for future use. Now, for computing or our air traffic control area, this handles all the processing. So, what I would basically explain, this is where the calculations are made, the algorithms are run, and all the heavy lifting is done. And then, just as air traffic control has to manage multiple flights taking off, landing, and flying, the computing section has to juggle multiple tasks to ensure smooth operations. Lastly, the data analytics area is much like the customs and integration desks, where incoming data is examined for insights that could inform business decisions. This is where big data analytics algorithms sift through large sets of data to provide actionable insights, just like the custom officers scrutinize travel documents and belongings just to maintain that security and order. Now, lastly, is the network. The network is really represented by those runways and taxiways that connect all the areas of the airport, ensuring a seamless flow of planes, just like our network ensures smooth communication and data flow. It's a lot of information in the analogy and the communication strategy. So we could dive deeper into those areas, or we can pivot and talk a little bit more about the important context areas for a marketing manager. Okay, let's dive a little bit more into the context. So I'm assuming and imagining that our marketing manager is insured with an ad campaign launch and making that ad campaign launch successful. So If we are to assume this, we're assuming that probably they're coordinating with multiple departments, the metrics are being scrutinized, and they're definitely trying to optimize as well. So let's first consider load balancing in our cloud architecture. If we use the airport analogy, this would be comparable to managing air traffic on multiple runways to ensure that no runway is overburdened, thus avoiding delays and ensuring smooth operations. As a marketing manager, you don't want your websites or applications to crash due to high traffic during a campaign launch. So, understanding load balancing, therefore, would help them appreciate why the technology is implementing certain protocols and how it would benefit their campaigns directly. Next, if we were to talk about auto scaling, another important item in cloud architecture, in the airport, we would think about this flexibility of opening and closing terminals based on the volume of passengers. Just like we mentioned in the busy season, you might have more terminals open. So, for example, auto scaling in cloud architecture automatically increases or decreases resources based on demand. And so this would ensure during high traffic events that marketing managers might be looking at, like Black Friday or a new product launch, that the systems can simply scale up to manage the additional load and ensure a really smooth customer experience. Finally, if we're looking at data redundancy, this can be likened to having multiple backup systems in place for air traffic control. Just as they wouldn't want to risk any flight safety due to a single point of failure, data redundancy ensures that critical marketing data is stored in multiple places. This would give them peace of mind knowing that they would never lose valuable customer data and be informed on critical strategies. I think a good next step for us is to go ahead and pivot and move into those success metrics. Does that work for you? Okay, let's do that. The first way I'm going to measure success is an immediate recap. Right after the technical explanation, I'm asking the marketing manager if they have any questions, need any more clarification, especially using our airport analogy to guide us. Then I'll probably a week later do some form of feedback form just with simple questions just to engage the marketing manager and see if that data has sat. And again, we're really pushing this airport analogy with them. Then we might have some self evaluation milestones for them to achieve, just basically sharing some milestones that they can use for self evaluation over time. Within 3 months, for example, they should be able to articulate how load balancing has maybe improved their campaign reach. Definitely documentation. We want to encourage the marketing manager to document how they've applied technical concepts in these campaigns. And then not only documenting, but socializing. So maybe they utilize a Slack channel, for example, where they can share their successes, share their challenges that they've had. And then lastly, a success metric that I would bring in is I would just have regular check-ins. Maybe that's only quarterly or biannual, but just to help them along the way and let them know that I am there to help if they ever need it. So we can pause here. I think it's a good end, but we could also dive back into a couple of concepts that I haven't discussed, which were goals and data, or I'm happy to dive into any of the other concepts that I mentioned. And there you have it. We've taken a deep dive into one of the most common yet daunting questions for software engineers and other technical professionals. We really want to be thinking about how we're going to create a great analogy to answer these questions. And of course, by focusing in on these areas, the airport analogy, we're just going to have better solutions that will not only help software engineers, but also help any professional in any technical field to communicate effectively with those who may not be versed in technical concepts, in this specific case, cloud architecture. And then if you're looking at it from the marketing manager's perspective, I hope that you found this type of analogy really, really helpful. For our software engineers, I just lastly hope that this helps you effectively communicate in future meetings and discussions. The airport analogy is just one of many analogies we can use, but it's a really simple, common concept that would help a lot of people. I really hope this video helps. Thanks so much.